Welcome to the Leadership is Female podcast. Jackie Carson. She is the head women's basketball coach at Furman University. We're so happy to have you here today.
Hi, thanks for having me, Emily. This is going to be great. I'm excited.
Yeah. So tell us who you are and what you do. Give us a little introduction into your journey to becoming head basketball coach at Furman.
Yeah. So again, my name is Jackie Carson. I just finished. It proved to be a little bit more unlucky than lucky. 13th year at Furman University, which is also my alma mater. So I had a great basketball career here and graduated in 2000. Went on to play a couple years overseas, and then I was supposed to go to Russia to play, and that just didn't sound the least bit exciting for me. So I retired from playing basketball, and I was pre-med in college and had zero desire to be a basketball coach. And so I went back to Northern Virginia, right outside DC, and started getting hours to go to either PA school or see if I wanted to go back to med school, which I knew was going to be a long trek. So and during that time, I was a personal trainer and a rehab specialist. And so one of the young ladies that I trained was a basketball player with a local AAU team. And her mom said, "Hey, do you want to help coach this AAU team?" I was like, "Sure." You know, I still loved basketball, so wanted to be around it. Just didn't want to play anymore. And so overseas life is a little bit tougher than most people expect. So I was ready to come back home, but so I started coaching AAU, and my assistant coach, Tim Taylor, who's now the head coach at Navy, he's like, "Hey, you need to coach in college. You're good at this." And I was like, "No, I'm good." And he's like, "No, you should try it. And I have you an interview at Bucknell as an assistant coach." And I was like, "Oh my God, coach." And he's like, "Just go on the interview." And so that was about 20 years ago. And here I am. I was 2 years at Bucknell as an assistant, 5 years at James Madison as associate head coach. And then now, like I said, just finished lucky year number 13 at Furman, where I went to school. And so my husband is an associate athletic director at Furman, so we're a little bit of a tag team. And we have two daughters, London, who is 11, and Lathan, who is 9. So,
Wow, what a story. I love that you were coaching AAU and the talent was shining through and other people saw it and were like, "No, this is what's next." And now you're an award-winning head coach and Hall of Famer. So you have a saying for your team. It's "be distinct." What does that program motto mean?
Yeah, so anyone knows me, I don't really like looking like anyone else. I like standing out for the right reasons. One of the things my mom, I'm sure we'll hit on this, one of my things my mom used to tell me all the time is you just got to be better. And so you just got to stick out for the right reasons. You got to be better. And so really big on presence and having your own voice. And I think that's part of what Be Distinct was all about. We used to have different like mottos every year, like up until like my first 5 or 6 years. And then we would, the first 2 weeks we're like, okay, here's their team motto for the year. And then by 2 weeks in, we went away from all of it. We forgot why we were saying it. It had no sticking point. So I was like, okay, I want a recurring like set of values and core values that everyone in this program, whether you're an assistant coach, a player, trainer, whatever the case may be, like that we live by. And I don't want it to be like anything else that we've seen. So Be Distinct was created, and it's an acronym for discipline, integrity, selflessness. We kind of cheat. We have 3 T's because it just depends on what I'm talking about. So the first T can either be transparency or together, intensity, no excuses, commitment, and trust. And so everything that we do is outlined in our distinct principles. Each principle or core value has a quote that is associated with it. So I let my first team that, we instilled these core values. I said, go and look up these words and find a quote that you think, kind of sticks with our team and kind of will be the building blocks of this program from here forward. So I wanted to give them some ownership in what it meant. So that first group had a bunch of quotes, and we picked which one was the best one. And so those quotes travel with us year to year. All the players have to know the quotes that are associated with each core value. It's all over our locker room. It's on some of our gear, like it's all over social media. It's really the branding of our program. And it's just so that we stick out for the right reasons and we represent our program in a distinct way.
I love that. I love that story. And I didn't know it was an acronym, and that allows that to go so much deeper when you can think about each one of those individual words and what they represent for the team. And you got to think that, sports, you get those amazing 4 years at university, but that's going to stick with your athletes for life.
Yeah, absolutely. We say it's funny because it's on, like, we have scout quizzes, and we start every day with what's the core value of the day. And then it's funny because I'll say something, they're like, Coach, that's not very distinct of you. And I was like, you know what? That's a good point. So there's a lot of accountability in both ways but it really has. It's shaped our team. It gives them an identity. It gives us an identity in recruiting, because if a young lady doesn't fit one of those core values, they can't join our program, and so culture is everything. And so those core values define our culture and everything that we stand by, and it's on and off the court. So it carries over into their life after basketball. And it's fun. Some of the ones that are graduating, they're like, be distinct. And they still say the same things to this day. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're the coach at Furman, but you were also a player. So what's your most memorable moment from Furman?
Oh gosh. As a player, we won the championship my senior year. We just knocked on the door so many times, and then finally, it's nice to be able to win that championship. It's pretty crazy. We unfortunately haven't done it. We've been to 2 finals as a coach. One last year, but the best memory is on the way to the championship game for the Southern Conference tournament. You get a police escort from the hotel, and so both years that we were in the final, like, our girls' faces lit up. They're like, we have a police escort, just like, it's kind of like with your kids, like they're just given something that they haven't had or experienced before. And kind of my why in the coaching is to make you believe and feel like you can do something you've never thought you were capable of doing. So when they have those like moments where they're like wide-eyed and kind of bushy-tailed and excited about what they've accomplished and what they're looking to accomplish, that probably means the most. So it hasn't even done anything with winning or losing. It's just little moments like that where they, they're like, oh, this is so cool. And this is part of what I've dreamed the entire time. So it's more like the Mama Carson moments.
I love that. How much has basketball changed since you were a player?
Gosh, a lot. And sometimes a lot of it is probably for the worse, because, not just basketball, but maybe sports in general have changed a lot, just because when I played so many sports, I played soccer and I played softball and I played tennis and, obviously basketball, volleyball, and I loved it. I feel like it really shaped who I am and the confidence that I built, as a young kid. And now I think it's hard because we're kind of going through it with our daughters right now, that every sport is year round and they want you to specialize so early. And I don't like that. So we're in a little bit of a struggle because both of my daughters, like I said, they're 9 and 11 and they're playing travel soccer and travel basketball. Well, when I was growing up, it was basketball season ended, and then it went to soccer season ended, went to softball. So you could really just play multiple things. And now it's almost like you have to choose at 9 and 11, and Mama Carson ain't choosing. So, so we just have conflicting, crazy schedules all the time. So I wish that was the one thing that hadn't changed, is just the ability to, not have to choose so early, because I do think it contributes to burnout once they get to the college ranks. But the sport of basketball, it's a lot more, it was a lot more physical when I was growing up. And it was a little bit more it was tougher. It was mentally tougher. And I think it's just a little bit like the environment and parents and stuff like that just made it tougher. So.
Yeah, I was just talking with a parent this weekend on the sidelines of my 8-year-old's lacrosse game scrimmage, which turned into 2 games. And then they wanted to hold a practice afterwards. And then we got an email that they would now be practicing 3 days a week, plus games on the weekend. I'm like, they're 8 and they barely know how to play. And we are also in soccer. And this dad was like, well, now we have to specialize in sports. And I go, no, I don't believe in that. Jackie, I was the same as you. I had seasons. And at this age, it's about having fun. It's about building your athleticism and also like trying new things and making friends and like having a good time. I don't understand why we have to put so much pressure on the kids at such a young age. I don't think that's having good results once they get to high school.
No, I totally agree. I've had so many parents from my daughters, gosh, not only just from my 11-year-old AAU team, but 9-year-old. Obviously, they know what I do. So they're like, okay, she's trying to be D1 and she's got to do this. I'm like, let's just get through the tournament. Like we're trying to already alter her college career. And she wants to play this and this and this. And I'm like, you know, it's funny because in the movie Love and Basketball, I used to love this quote all the time. It's when you're little, you just have dreams of what your future is going to be, and it never occurs to you. It may not happen that way. And so that's what I want to tell these parents. I was like, oh my gosh, you're setting the bar so high for your daughter. And what happens if it doesn't turn out that way? And that's what I said, just the mentality is a little bit different by the time they get to college, because, you know, it's amazing, Emily. I have so many girls that are super talented sit across from me and say, I don't think I'm good enough. I'm like, you're in college. And one of them was a freshman of the year, it turned out, but she's like, I just don't think I'm good enough. And so like, they just set these really early lofty goals. And then if they happen to fall short, their whole world crumbles, instead of, like you said, focusing on, did you have fun today? Did you have a great time? What do you think you could have did better? Oh, don't worry about that. Like,
Yeah.
just worry on the sport. And I'm hoping that your skills improve and your mentality, and that you eventually start to value winning and improvement. But right now we're not there yet. Have fun.
Yeah. And focus on how far you came. You made it. You're playing college basketball. There's so much joy that you should allow yourself to feel in that moment of success. And now that you're there, you know, give yourself the time and the grace to build your skill set, learn from your teammates. You're not meant to be 100% from day one. Like it's all about, you know, learning and growth and improvement over the course of your time.
Absolutely. And people don't see that, you know, and so it's funny that you said that, because we did an exercise with our team this year. Again, we went through so much adversity and it was kind of crazy. I said, but let's have a reminder that you're in a position that you once prayed to be in. And because I had to remind myself that a lot of times. I was like, gosh, there were times, you know, 15 years ago, I prayed to be a head coach, and now I am one. So I have to take what comes with it. But I also have to acknowledge I once prayed to be where I am now. And so that's what our girls, I said, remember, tell us about that time you once prayed. And they're like, oh, I prayed to be a Division I athlete. I said, well, you're here. So let's celebrate that. You know, and so we just went back to, what did you once pray for and have you accomplished it? And pretty much every single one of them had checked off that box. I was like, okay, let's acknowledge that and let's move on, instead of focusing on, oh, this is so bad right now. No, you once prayed to be in this position. So let's celebrate that.
I love that reminder. And I think that all of our listeners can think of maybe the moment they're in right now. They once prayed to be there, and you know, you made it, and now you got to do it. Like now you got to take that situation that you prayed to be in and run with it and really find the most success and happiness and fulfillment that you can. And, you know, besides being the head coach, you're also involved in a lot of other things. You're an executive committee member and former president of the Women of Color Coaches Network and a leading member of the National Women's Basketball Coaches Association. What do you believe these organizations can do for women's lives? Why do you choose to lead within these organizations rather than just being a member? And then last, what do you think is the difference between membership and leadership?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's funny because those organizations have really developed me a lot in finding my voice. It's really, I think some people mistake leadership with using your platform to really like reach out to others outside of your organization. So the Women of Color group came about, gosh, I think it's been almost 10 years. And it was because, you know, Black females at the Division I level are really underrepresented. I cannot talk. Underrepresented at for Black females at the Division I in basketball. And so at the time, I think it was only 15% of the head coaches at Division I were Black females. And so we got together because we really needed to just like kind of woosah and be in a room where we were going through the same struggles, and it turned out to be an amazing weekend, and there was a lot of tears, and so that impacted me so much that when we decided to have a leadership board, Felicia Hall Allen, who is based out of Charlotte, she's like, "You need to be the first president." And I was like, "Huh?" And so, but it was really powerful for me because we formed like mentoring groups of young Black female head coaches that are coming through the ranks, that wanted to get into college coaching, that were trying to become head coaches. So it was almost like we really formed a sisterhood at different levels. So from assistant coaching level all the way up to a head coaching level, because there's studies that show that although we are unlikely to be hired, we are also likely to get fired a whole lot quicker in our current role, which is unfortunate. So similar to what I said, my mom, we have to be better. Like we have to win quickly. We have to really add as quickly as possible value to the university in addition to already winning games. So it's a higher stake, and we have to like come together for that. So that's how the Women of Color group really formed and how it shaped me. The WBCA, it's funny because I'm on a WBCA board of directors and one of two coaches on the women's basketball oversight. And I always laugh that I must have talked too much in some of these meetings because people are like, "Hey, you want to be on this?" And I'm like, I don't, what is that? And so, but I'm pretty vocal. I used to not be so vocal in those meetings. And the tide turned for me after George Floyd, to be honest. Because I felt like as a Black female, usually in a predominantly white space, that my truth made other people feel uncomfortable, and I didn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. But at the same time, I realized after that moment that I need to make people aware of what my truth is instead of worrying about them being uncomfortable about my truth. And so my voice got significantly louder in 2020 during COVID. And it might have been because of Zooms and stuff like that, and not being in the room as much. But it just served as an opportunity on all these boards to give my perspective, which is usually in a unique perspective because there's not many in that room that look like me. And so that's where I think, going to your last question, it was the difference between leadership and membership. Members, I think they do play a role, but members don't have to, they can listen a lot more, not to say leaders don't, but they can kind of soak it in, where leaders have to be very intentional about finding solutions for the membership. And that's where I think, the membership is usually trying to execute out the leader's vision for that group, where the leader has to have a vision on how to get the membership to follow that group, So I think that's the biggest thing is just, in those leadership roles, we are trying to formulate a plan to move along the entire membership. And then the membership's job is a little bit to execute that plan. So they're depending on that leadership to help move the group forward.
So I love what you said about finding your voice, and that there was sort of this tipping point for you where you realized that you didn't need to worry so much about the discomfort of others, that your truth is what needed to be told. And I think that is so powerful. What type of confidence do you think you had behind that tipping point? Was it the circumstances that just sort of pushed you over the edge to really start to share your feelings, from your heart, speak up? And then how did you keep doing it? Because sometimes you get this burst of energy and confidence and you can share, and then you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that again.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point and then stay so bold in your leadership?
Yeah, I really think it was an aha moment. During that time, during COVID, George Floyd, and I remember we had within our athletic department, we had a town hall with all the student athletes. And, just talking to people, just talking to my experience, because again, my husband works in the athletic department. He played football at James Madison. So, we had to talk about something that no one else wanted. There's another coach I'm extremely close to, and she's a white female, and she's definitely an ally. But I told her about certain things. She said, I never have to worry about that. Like, I never even thought that's an issue or a problem. And I talked about like, if we were driving down the street and, God forbid, we had to talk about the night before, if he gets pulled over by the cops and the girls are in the back, and my husband has a concealed weapons permit, but that doesn't matter in that time because he's a pretty strong and large Black guy, and you don't know what environment you're in. So it was really cool because so many people, especially during that town hall, were asking questions. Hey, can I talk to you? A lot of my friends, we had such deep conversations about, they're like, I don't know what I don't know. And can I talk to you about that? And that kept making my voice a little bit stronger, because before I was like, I'm not going to talk to you about that because, one, I don't know if I can. Two, I don't know if you care. And three, it's just not something you just bring up. But that instance and that situation caused a lot of just conversations with friends and different groups that I'm in. And it was people all over the, Furman communities like, hey, can I talk to you? And we spend 2-3 hours because it's COVID, right? What else are we doing besides Zoom and talking on the phone to each other? And so that was really eye-opening for me. And then right after COVID was done, I got an email from a student. He's like, hey, I'm kind of doing this documentary. Do you mind if I come and ask you some questions? And so by this time, I felt really bold in my voice still. And going back to your last instance, I felt like my voice was having such an impact that I never was like, okay, I'm not going to talk about this anymore, because people were like, oh, thank you so much, just by just having conversation that they never felt comfortable having. But this student came and he's like, do you mind if I interview you? And he was asking me about some things that I've experienced as a Black female, and a Black female at Furman, and a Black female as a player, and just the, everything that had happened, Ahmaud Arbery, and, just different topics. And it really hit me because he's like, Coach Carson, you don't realize this, but 2 years ago, I sent you an email asking if you felt comfortable talking about this, and you declined. You just said, I just didn't feel comfortable at the time, like sharing. And now, like, we did this interview, and it was it was an absolutely phenomenal interview. He did a whole documentary, just different segments of the campus, and it was amazing. And but that really hit me, that 2 years ago, exact same question, like, do you mind talking about this, this, and this? And I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. Yeah, nope, it's going to make too many people uncomfortable. They don't need to know about it. But then in that moment, 2 years later, it just had such an impact, and throughout the university, and just other people who watched it.
Yeah, well, you got the ball rolling, and then you started seeing the results. And at that point, like, the momentum was keeping you going, and there was no turning back. And it was a bit of a awful and also like magical, enlightening time, because it opened up this conversation that no one felt comfortable having. And the more that we use our voice, the more it sort of normalizes the ability to have that conversation, and to be open and talk with one another in a way that I don't think we really were before.
Absolutely.
And so I love hearing that. I'm so thrilled. And it's just like laden with advice on, if you've got something to say, you can't drive a parked car. Like, you got to put it in gear, or at least put it in neutral and let the wind, push you a little bit, and momentum will get you started. And it can also keep you going, just like inside your example.
Right, absolutely. And that's what it is. It's just like, just hearing a couple of people say, gosh, I wish we talked about this sooner, or having people say, I just feel comfortable talking about it because I heard you talking about it, or that was how I've been feeling this entire time, and I never felt comfortable saying anything. So I think those are the biggest things that just kind of, like you said, added some gas to the car and kept the car rolling. So it's been great.
So what's the biggest hurdle that you've had to overcome in your career?
Oh gosh. I think from a coaching standpoint, it might be, obviously my measurements of value are not the same as me keeping my job. Obviously coaching, we measure, everything is measured by wins and losses. But what I describe as a win is not the same as what my AD and president and anyone else describes as a win. I want young ladies to thrive in life, and I have them more from 18 to 22 years old, than their parents do. And so, what I describe as winning is not the same measuring stick as what my job is entail. Now, luckily, I've been blessed to be able to do both, but that's a hard that's a hard combination of trying to do both. And I think a lot of coaches struggle with that. But and then just also, like I said, just the dynamics of, statistically being a Black female um and just knowing that it's harder for us to have a second chance. We kind of call it recycled in our business, and you don't see a lot of Black females who get another chance once they become a head coach. So you feel a lot of pressure to get it right the first time. And that's why I'm blessed to have been at Furman for 13 years and had many opportunities to get it right. And sometimes I've gotten it right and sometimes I've gotten it wrong, but I've been given grace to have another opportunity to do that. And so but there's a lot of pressure in this seat. It's a very lonely seat, and especially lonely when there's not a lot of people that look like you in this seat. So trying to get folks to understand that is probably the biggest hurdle.
I'm so happy you shared all this, because I think there's generally probably a lack of awareness that those are the statistics. Like, to me, as you're saying this on the today, like it doesn't even make sense.
Right.
Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't get a second chance? What do you mean you're less likely to get hired and more likely to get fired? Like that, it does not make sense to me. If you're a great coach, you played the game at the highest level, and you're applying amazing leadership skills to these young women, like it just, that part is just very hard to connect the dots. But I think this is also providing like visibility around this issue. And it's wonderful you're talking about it, because the more we talk about it, hopefully people have the same reactions as me, is like, what the hell? Like that doesn't make sense. And that needs to change. People who are deserving of positions should get the positions, like, end of sentence. Right.
And that's what the biggest thing is. It's because, again, going back to what I said earlier, it makes people uncomfortable. It's not that I don't want males to get this position, because as I described earlier in the podcast, it was a male that helped me get into coaching. Like that's my closest counterpart. But I also think it doesn't make sense that there are more males coaching females than females coaching females. I have my associate head coach on my staff is a male, and I think, and I'm pushing him one day to be a head coach of a program one day. So it is a bit of a delicate mix. But I also feel like I have put him in a position where he respects female leadership, and he can still instill female leadership, where I don't always think that's the case. But they have to see it to believe it. They have to. I think that's the really cool part for me, is being in that 16-17%. And it's still really weird. And just having a little girl just come up and be like, oh my God, and I just met you and you're so famous. I was like, okay, that's awkward. But to them, I am, because maybe they haven't seen, in our state, you see, Dawn Staley, and you see me a lot of times. And there's some other examples, but in those big moments, you are the only person that you're seen like that. And, whatever the representation is. So they believe they can do it because they saw you, and to them, you are famous. So that's the biggest thing, is just that there's so many hurdles that come with that. And just finding your voice.
Well, and your confidence, the skill of confidence that you've got, has really helped you get to where you are today. And you're also showcasing that to those young women. So how much do you think confidence and willpower have played into the success that you've experienced and the position that you have earned today?
Huge. Because the crazy thing is, like I said, it's a really lonely position. So as much as I have to display confidence, I don't always have it. It's especially in those tough moments, you're like, can I do this? And when you're trying to balance being a wife, a mother, a coach, season's not going well, you hear bad news, you're support or not support. There's so many factors into it. But I also feel like just like moms, you have to project that strength to your kids or to your husband, and we have to do so with our team. So I think my confidence also kind of like breeds in like the fact that again, I remind myself that I once prayed to be in this position and I earned this position and I got that position. So I have to keep telling myself, you're here for a reason and this is not by mistake and you earn this. But there's always an ever-changing climate of how you have to adapt and still be better than everyone else and still adjust. So that confidence comes in like, in waves. And so I would be lying if I always said it was always peak. Um, but it's also nice having a circle of people around you, particularly women and my husband that are like, okay, let's fix this crown, queen. Like, let's get it back together. So they feed confidence in because they know my weaknesses and my vulnerabilities more than others. So then to people who don't know me well, it just always looks like it breeds confidence. But really, it's my network being like, come on, we got this. Like, pony up. And because I don't want my players to see it. I want them to project that, absorb that confidence and project it into their own lives. And same thing with my kids, 2 little girls. I want them to see that mommy is confident, but behind the scenes, we all know that we have that breaking point as women where things just seem to be falling apart. And then we get ourselves together, we hide in the bathroom or in the closet real quick, and then we come out and we look like super women again. So there's that stigma of being a woman and just always having to show the strength.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's great to hear that even coaches need coaching around them. You need your own hype squad to keep you on top of your game.
Oh yeah, if we don't have that, we fall apart. It's just like anything else, like because again, it's a profession that only someone else in this profession truly understands. So like I said, my circle is extremely small, but it's tight and it allows me to be vulnerable with these women. And obviously, my husband sees it on a daily basis because he gets the wins and the losses when I come home. So the tough losses, and he's got to deal with that, and he gets to help celebrate the big wins and everything in between. But without that circle of women or just those people who know you best to tell you to, hey, yes, you did this, but let's get back on this, or to remind you how you got there and who you are and what you represent and what your why is, because they'll fully understand it. I think it's really hard to stay on top.
So how much do you think having 2 daughters has changed you and changed your female leadership?
Oh gosh, it's huge. I became a way better coach once I had kids because one, I'm recruiting these young women to come to Furman University and I'm saying, I'll do this, 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 and this, and I'll take care of your daughter. Well, you don't really fully know how to take care of someone's kid until you have your own kid and you know what that looks like and feels like. So having kids is absolutely phenomenal. Also gave me balance though. Because I used to take everything home, the wins, losses. I was a workaholic. And it took my oldest daughter is very much locked into sports and everything is like, did we win? Blah, blah, blah. My oldest daughter, she plays sports, but she also can care less. She's looking at the dance team. She's looking at the mascots and like, I'll open the door and she's like, it'll be a tough game. And she'll be like, let's play Barbies. And I'm like, let's play Barbies. Or they'll say, mommy, I'm real big on still dressing up for games. So that's part of my thing with my team is I wear stilettos and dresses and skirts and like just kind of nonstop. I think that professionalism needs to show young women on how to dress for your job and the job that you want. That's why I'm really big. So, but going back to it, I'll have a tough game. My mom and my daughters will be like, but you look real pretty. Your heels are really nice. Your skirt looked great, so it's just like, it just put a perspective and a balance in my life that I didn't have before.
Yeah, I love to hear that. And I would agree, being a mom, it's made me better at my job. It's made me have more empathy for everybody around me. And also like just better dealing with people. I think in general, when you have these little ones that need so much from you, I don't know, it's been a real enhancement
Right.
to life.
Absolutely. And I have way more patience.
Yeah.
I probably had no patience. Now I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I could see that for sure. And you call yourself Mama Carson.
Yeah.
So you're not really just mom to your 2 daughters. I think you also see those women on your team as your girls too. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because they'll say there's certain rules I have that are Mama Carson rules. So when they go somewhere, they just have to tell me, like, I don't need to know necessarily why you're going, and this is when they're going out of town, but we have a 4 text rule. You text me when you leave, you text me when you get there, you text me when you're leaving, coming back to campus, and you text me when you get here. And that's just so I know in my mind, I have peace that you're not traveling on the road and something's wrong. Like, because all of my antennas go up, and you know how that is as a mom, and worry. And I sense stuff from them the same way I sense it from my kids, because I know them so well. Again, they're Division I basketball players, are on campus or with you pretty much 11 out of the 12 months out of the year. And they'll come into the office and they're like, we need you to take the Coach Carson. I need Mama Carson right now. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And so I think it gives, it strengthens our relationships, because they know I can go both, ways of being their coach and their mama and stuff like that. But I definitely have a Mama Carson side with all of these athletes. And then it helps in recruiting too, because I do not recruit any kid that I think is going to be, but my daughters can't be around, and so because my kids literally think that my players are their best friends. I was like, in their minds, they are, and so I want them to choose really good best friends. And I want them to see the example that our young women set. And so I think it's just it has just led to a whole different relationship. And the Mama Carson also lets parents know that their daughter's going to be taken care of, because there are so many mama rules.
What a great recruiting tool that is just so authentic, right? You're not making that up, but you're able to really create that trust with those parents that you're going to take care of their girl when she's on campus with you. And
Right.
as an athlete playing for you, I can't imagine, there's this, like, at that age, there's this level of like wanting your freedom, but also really needing somebody on your side. So they kind of, get that. They get to have their mama, as their coach, who they know will look out for them. And when they truly need something beyond the game, you're available. It's just incredible.
And just think about it, like from 18 to 22, how many like crazy life experiences are between that round? You often can find the person you're going to marry, or you go through heartbreak, or your body has changed, or your relationship status has changed. Just how you go into relationships have changed, just development of confidence or losing confidence. Like there's so many things that you would experience normally with your kid, and that you just like hormonally, like college life, there's so much going on between that age. So it is it is a bond, and it's a little bit different, because I've had some kids that got into trouble being college students, and their parents will call me and they're like, she's more worried about what you think than what I think, but that's the crazy thing about it, is those are the relationships we have. And I want them to have that trust in me to be able to tell me whatever is going on, the same way we tell our kids, you don't lie to me, just tell me what's going on. But it's all relationship based, and it's all because of the little mama gene. They know at the end of the day, I can care less about the basketball part. I want to make sure you're good and that you're taken care of. And if that's the case, then I'm good. And again, that's where it goes back to what my measuring stick is and what my job is measured by. So at the end of the day, like I tell our girls all the time, I will not have a clue of how many games that I've won or lost, but I will always remember the number of weddings and the babies that I've held that were my players, and seeing you guys go and rock it and do different things. I know all of those stories like the back of my hand.
Oh, that is amazing. I love it. That's what life is made out of, right? Okay. Speaking of your life, what is life like for you in Greenville, South Carolina?
Greenville, South Carolina is phenomenal. There's so many awards and that Greenville has gotten, and I think people are seeing it as like one of the top 5 or 10 growing cities in the U.S. It's great for families. It's right in the middle of, so it's an hour south of Charlotte, North Carolina. It's 2 hours north of Atlanta, so you can get to even larger markets. It's just an amazing city, and it's got everything that you need. And so I love Greenville. It's probably, again, it has everything you need without traffic. I'm from Northern Virginia, so everything is traffic based, and you used to have to plan your life around when the HOV lane was open and stuff like that. So you have all the best of all these worlds, and you don't have traffic, or what they think is traffic. They think it's traffic. It's not traffic to me.
Oh yeah, I'm right with you there, Jackie. Living in Reno, Nevada now, being from Chicago, and then having lived in Houston,
Yes.
There's not traffic here, and that is what makes life better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, we're down to the final 4 questions. Got some quick hitters for you. So what's your best piece of advice for women to apply today to level up tomorrow?
Oh gosh. Hmm. I think what has helped me is, like I said, is just having a circle. A lot of people call it their board of directors, circle of friends that absolutely is going to carry you through those moments when you're vulnerable, when you're losing confidence. And it's a group of people. I think I tell our players this: you never care about the opinions of somebody you don't ask advice from. And so, especially in my position, like I could look at message boards, I could look at I could hear what fans are thinking. I don't care. And it took me a long time to get there because I let the opinions of other really influence how I was thinking about myself and my performance. And if you do that, you're not going to advance. You have to have the utmost confidence in yourself. And when you're wavering, you have that board of directors of those group of women or men that are around you to tell you how much of a rock star you are. So I think the support around you, that network of just, and also I have women around me that will bring me to tables I've never been to. And I think that's the other part, is just like, hey, I saw this for you. You need to do this. And again, I didn't volunteer for a lot of these committees. People that respect me say you need to be on this committee because this is going to be life changing for you career wise. So just having that support and those other people or women particularly that are going to help put you at tables that you've never been at.
Where are you traveling to next?
Oh, I'm going to Barbados in May with my circle of women and their husbands.
Oh, I
Um,
love that. Okay, what is your pump up song? What do you walk out to on the basketball court?
oh gosh. Anything Beyonce. I'm a huge Beyonce. So like Freedom, Countdown, like those are my songs where I just feel a little like a boss walking in with my heels and my stilettos, and I just kind of picture it in my head. So like I'm getting ready to play. I'm not playing. I have no control. But I feel good walking in.
And finally, what is your favorite quote?
um Probably the one I just said is don't take advice from people. Don't care about the opinions for someone you don't take advice from.
It is such great advice, especially today, and I'm sure advice that your girls need as well, and that we all need that reminder, because we can let one little voice in the back of the room like take us down, and it is such a shame. So
Yes,
if you would not ask advice from that person, do not care
I
what
do
they
not.
have to say about what you're doing. And furthermore, like, did they have the courage to get in the arena, or was it you?
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely.
love that.
Absolutely.
Well, Jackie, this has been so much fun and just filled with incredible advice for our female leaders. And can't thank you enough for being a part of the Leadership is Female podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Emily.